Culture. What exactly is culture? How does it lead to the formation of a city? How does it benefit our own unique identity? Intertwining with a living space always intrigued me. From my Chinese Indonesian neighbors celebrating Chinese New Year's with extravagant decor covering their houses, to my family celebrating our own Congolese and Sierra Leonean traditions through our clothing and food. I've always had a diverse perspective on how culture can affect us in our lives. Well, unlike most of my hometown, Charlotte, I got to experience the pleasure of the intertwiningness of culture in my lifestyle. However, in terms of a whole nation, I would say that we are lacking in that department. Charlotte and the highway are inseparable. In fact, it is part of our culture. Having two massive highways run through it admittedly does have its own perks, yet there are many other disadvantages as well. It is one of the least walkable cities in the whole United States. The automobile dominates the city. You see no one walking on the streets during some parts of the day. Everyone is hiding within their metal wagons. Even worse, in some instances, these highways were used to segregate and destroy certain communities. This obviously disproportionately discriminated against certain communities, specifically the black community, further installing a culture that is oppressive. While these measures have been blocked today, the aftermath of these policies still linger. As Le Corbusier may put it, this is the ideal city, yet it is voided with culture. I really do like Charlotte, however, I cannot ignore that. In my opinion, we are voided a culture and our identity that makes us stand apart. Coming to Pomona, I knew that I would get to see new perspectives that would change my view on Charlotte and the city culture as a whole, but there I would encounter this revolution honestly surprised me. During fall break, some friends and I ended up in downtown Los Angeles, near Union Station. I've had been to Los Angeles a couple of times before this trip, however, I was not that familiar with the city as a whole and what it had to offer. Walking out of Union Station without knowing what the plan was, I honestly had no idea that would define my experience with so much culture. I ended up walking for around an hour, my path constantly diverging. However, we found ourselves in a place that changed my perspective on culture as a whole and a living space that interacted with it, Little Tokyo. Seeing Little Tokyo was absolutely amazing. The sudden shift in buildings from having a traditional American theme to having a stark Japanese influence was honestly surprising. Witnessing authentic Japanese culture and architecture through the center with various restaurants and shops and vendors was super neat. Once we got there, some members of our group searched for a restaurant, so my friends and I decided to sit on a bench right in the middle of a center and made some observations. Right next to us was a large bonsai tree riddled with little sticky notes with wishes for health and prosperity. It was incredible seeing people with vast arrays of differences explore the area and made it feel safe in their own unique way. And it made the ambience 100 times better. I've never been to Tokyo, but so far it felt like a little piece of Tokyo was shipped overseas and dropped in LA. For me, seeing how Los Angeles juggles its distinct cultures by giving ethnic groups their own space to show off their culture to the city gave me a whole new perspective on how a city creates interculturalism. It juxtaposes my views on my hometown with fresh new ideas that honestly gave me life exploring the area. In Charlotte, there's not much Japanese representation apart from a few Japanese restaurants, which are not authentic to be honest, but I digress. So seeing real, genuine Japanese buildings and restaurants was completely new. It offered a new door into exploring a different culture separate from mine, and I loved it. It truly encapsulated what Jane Jacobs was discussing and fighting for in New York. Seeing people from all different walks of life, socioeconomic backgrounds, and so much more interacting and mingling in this place was so fascinating. My experience there was truly eye-opening. So naturally, I wanted to learn more about the various histories of Little Tokyo and its people, and so I did. Little Tokyo came into fruition, ironically, through the Chinese Exclusion Act that prohibited and slowed the flow of Chinese immigrants entering the United States, and predominantly California. Due to this increased the demand for other foreign laborers, which attracted Japanese people to immigrate to the sunny west coast. It was not formally named Little Tokyo until sailor Hamusuki first established the now historic landmark Kami restaurant on East 1st Street back in 1885. This caused Japanese American families to arrive in the area in droves, furthering cementing their spot in the Los Angeles area. This changed during World War II, however, when many Japanese Americans were put into internment camps due to defense of Pearl Harbor, fueling the hate towards the Japanese community. This caused Little Tokyo and the surrounding areas to become a ghost town until African American families moved in to fill vacant job positions. This movement would turn Little Tokyo into Bronzeville. After World War II, however, the internment camps were eventually shut down and a multitude of Japanese families moved back into the area. The transition from Bronzeville to Little Tokyo was for the most part relatively smooth and peaceful for both parties. Many Japanese restaurants hired black workers and many black-owned restaurants hired Japanese workers, and vice versa. Like what Dane Jacobs discussed in The Death and Life of Great American Cities, this collaboration and unity could have been formed due to having a strong community focus, something that Le Corbusier's plan could not provide. However, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. As illustrated by Taylor in the book Race for Profits, areas around the US, specifically in my area Charlotte, have faced some sort of gentrification and discrimination regarding Black Americans. However, this extends to areas in Little Tokyo as well. Recently, Little Tokyo has been experiencing some sort of gentrification where the natives are being moved out and outside settlers are moving in. This is bad for many reasons, but for the main reason why is that the culture in this area is not being preserved to a greater extent. Soon, later down the line, Little Tokyo might not even exist due to this gentrification and to the rising housing prices in this area. In addition to this could also enforce some political aspects as well. Some areas in Little Tokyo, as well as the surrounding Chinatown and other cultural exclaves, could experience some sort of gerrymandering or redlining. This has happened in my hometown Charlotte, and it really impacted the political system and the social, economic, cultural backgrounds in Charlotte to this day. It has also increased the inequality gaps between many groups today. Overall, my experience in Little Tokyo was honestly a really good life-changing experience. I've learned many things, not only being here on Pomona, but just the surrounding LA area as well. I've met countless of many people from different socio-economic backgrounds, from different ways of life on this beautiful campus. This truly has been a dream of mine growing up, and I'm very glad to be living it out today. Living on a college town like this, also in a walkable city like LA, really enforces Jane Jacobs' idea. While there are many parts in LA that really does enforce Le Corbusier's idea of an ideal city where cars take center stage, the walkableness and the interactions that we have on this campus, to me, really enforces the idea that community and collaboration is the way to go. Throughout this entire course, I learned the different aspects of cities, and I'm very glad that I had learned these aspects and these philosophies as well. I never knew that cities had such philosophical and psychological nuances to it, and it was just really interesting just to learn that throughout this entire course. Overall, my experience in Little Tokyo was amazing, and I can't wait to go there again. Thank you for watching.